Hello and welcome to PedChat. Today I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Carey Chronis. He's a pediatrician and practice owner in Ventura, California. He's a Go Check Kids customer as well. High five for photo screening, Carey. He was gracious enough to fly all the way from Cali to Nashville, which is where I live, to film this interview. And he did it on a Sunday so that he didn't have to reschedule care appointments. Before and after our interview, he was even taking calls from patients and nurses. Talk about customer service. Speaking of customer service, Carey dives into how he has continued to separate his practice and stay with the times by elevating customer experience. And he gives us a glimpse of his publishing empire, Dr. Carey's Baby Care, which now has over 250,000 followers on Facebook and is rapidly growing. As always, please feel free to comment on the website. And if you haven't already signed up to join the community, go to pedchat.gocheckkids.com and fill out the form on the Join the Community page. This way, you'll get notified when these episodes are released and events are planned. Stay tuned for that. Okay, so now it's time to sit back, relax, and become inspired. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first in-person video interview for PedChat. I have with me Dr. Carey Chronis, a pediatrician for over 20 years, or about 20 years?
About 20 years.
In Ventura, California.
Time flies, yes.
Yeah. So welcome to PedChat.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So my first question to you is, what did you want to be growing up?
What I wanted to be was a physician. At first I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. And when I was about ninth grade, I asked an orthopedic surgeon that we knew if I could watch an operation. And he said, sure, got me permission, went in, it's all scrubbed up, I'm standing there, they wrapped the leg, cut open the leg, see this glistening bluish white bone, and I hit the ground. I did manage to watch the second operation and really enjoyed what I saw, and then pursued into medical school. And for the longest time, I thought I wanted to go into surgery or ear, nose, throat. But when I did a rotation in pediatrics, it was just a lot of fun, and that's where I ended up.
What do you mean when you say fun? You just loved working with kids?
The kids were fun.
Yeah.
They were, it was just, I mean, I remember once walking into a room, open up the door, and this little boy, stark naked, runs out the door, down the hall, and he was gone. You just never quite knew what your day was going to hold with him. It was just a lot of fun. Everything about it. Working with the parents was fun and easy. It was nice speaking to someone who wasn't the sick party and being able to explain things to. I didn't find it all that difficult to really understand how the child was feeling or what was going on. And it was fun to interact. Even in my office today, oftentimes when I'm doing an exam on a slightly older child, I won't even involve the parents at all. I'll get the whole history, do everything with the child, and I have walked in and out of the room without really saying anything to the parents on occasion when the child is really interactive and having fun.
Here's an interesting question. Every time I ask this question, I get, some interesting responses. Let's just put it that way. An interesting question with interesting responses. But what would you tell your 25-year-old self if you can go back and give one piece of advice?
I think that reaching out and finding the right people to help you in areas that you are weak in has been something that has really helped to improve myself and my direction on any outside project in my office, and reaching out and seeing what others are doing and how they're doing it, and try to eliminate some stumbling blocks because of it. I think that early on it's easy to lose sight of the fact that you really wants to be having fun while doing things. You have a lot of pressures on you early on. Well, 25, I was probably still in residency, but you have a lot of pressures early on financially and building your base and trying to figure out how to face things, and realizing that it's all going to work out. If you keep your eye on the big picture, though, it makes it a lot more pleasant while getting there.
Yeah, so it sounds like just not being afraid to ask for help, right? Is
Pretty
kind of
much.
the underlying theme.
Yeah, realize that people are oftentimes more than willing to help you when, when your question is focused and intelligent.
Right.
It's it's usually a good combination to have there.
Yeah. What are a few books that you would recommend for the audience? And in particular, books that kind of, oh, you mentioned the cheese. Don't.
Oh,
What is that book called again? I read it a long time ago. Who moved my cheese? Right. You mentioned that actually in your email.
Yeah, I think that's a good book for anyone who's been doing this for 15, 20, 25 years or more, because it goes back to the beginning of our conversation where it used to be that you basically hung your name up on the wall and opened your doors and the world came to you. And if you kept up with that process, you would find slowly that people will come to you, but your numbers are going to dwindle and you're really going to find yourself at a disadvantage in the marketplace. Things have changed and you have two options. You can either fight it, in which case you need to be prepared to try to make your own change, or you adopt it and move on with how it is. Insurance plans change, deductibles change, everything changes, and I don't feel like being a lobbyist against the insurance company for my life. So I figure out, okay, these are the new rules. How are we going to make it work for our office, and then move forward for that? It just needs, you need to have a full understanding of where your patients are looking this day and age and how they're making decisions and how they're coming to you, and accept that this is the new paradigm that one needs to deal with and make it work for you. That doesn't mean that you need to spend your life on, writing posts online constantly. You just need a clean, professional looking profile up there, and utilize strategies to make it clear what your office is about. And that's really all I'm doing with it, is taking my quote unquote business model of a small, comfortable, personable office and spelling that out in however we put our website together or whatever we put out in the community, so people know what's going on with it.
I want to dive into what a lot of our customers have been saying, in particular the ones that own a private practice, because, and I think during our conversations you had a lot to say on this. In fact, I'm going to read, let's see, you emailed me yesterday. I'm going to read what you emailed me as kind of a good intro to this topic. So you said 20 years ago, opening an office was fairly straightforward. A few ads in the paper, a phone book ad, and a quick tour of town, and viola, you have a practice.
And I think that's true. I think that a lot of pediatricians will find that what one needs to do to run an office today versus what needed to do 20 years ago is, I mean, we didn't have the internet in the same way. We didn't have social media to contend with. You didn't have Yelp. You didn't have Facebook running, reviews and everything else. You had basically word of mouth and, oh, so-and-so is a decent doctor, you should go and see him. And you really didn't have to do too much, at least in a medium-sized town, to get your name out there and to be successful. You get a obstetrician who refers a couple of babies to you, and before you know it, your circle of influence increases rather quickly. And while the basics still hold, you have to be a little more hands-on, I think, this day and age to keep up with all the changes that are happening.
Yeah, so how do you stay more hands-on?
Well, I think the biggest thing that really helped with the office in general was deciding what our business model was in terms of how we compete against other entities out there. We have a lot of large groups out there that have much bigger marketing budget than I could ever have. You have groups that are affiliated with hospitals or other entities that have the ability to advertise in ways that you just can't. You have large entities such as Kaiser, which for me, there's no competing against, because if patients go there, they're not going to come to my office per se. So for me, the business model really became very, very clear, which was, let's create a small, friendly office that felt a little more old school. And by old school, I didn't mean that we were going back in terms of old-time treatments, or we weren't staying current with what was going on, but you wanted people to feel comfortable when they came in. You wanted them to feel like they were coming to your living room. You wanted the office to look really nice. We get nice flowers that are delivered in our office. We have nice scents in the office. We keep the place nice and clean. When someone calls, they answer the phone. We answer the phone right away. We don't have service or anything that electronic that press 1 to go here, press 2 to go there. So do everything we can to create a nice experience. We try to get, well, we get people in the same day if they call before 3 for a sick child. We are responsive to their needs in that sense. They can reach me on the phone if they want to. They can call me directly after hours if they want to. They don't get a service. It's things like this that set us apart from what a big entity can't do.
Yeah, just an example was this morning when I picked you up from the airport when we first got here and I started setting it up, you received, 2 or 3 calls from patients and you're answering them on a Sunday morning. So I think that's part of the experience, the personability that you're providing, that very hands-on approach, right? I love how you related to high-end restaurants or high-end hotels too. That's really interesting. I think it's clear that it's okay, how do I differentiate myself is really your business model. Mm-hmm. And tell me about, you mentioned earlier too that part of your business model creation was deciding not only what your experience is going to be like and how to differentiate yourself, but even to the point of what insurance you take, right?
Well, I wish pediatrics was the type where you can be a little more selective and close off whole groups of insurances, but unlike adult medicine, which tends to fill up, in pediatrics, you have families who they're going through a very transitional part of their life. They are getting new jobs, they're getting new insurances because of it. They might be moving out of town or in town or buying a house. You don't know quite what's happening with them, so it's not quite a stable community. Plus, children grow up. I mean, I have children who I've seen from birth right through 18, but others come into town at any given time and then they're gone in a few years.
Right.
So you don't have I don't find that I have the luxury of necessarily shutting off an entire segments of insurance.
Right. I want to read something that Bill Gurley said, and he's a big venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. He's had a lot of success and he's getting into healthcare. And I want to read something that he said, and I want your opinion on it. This is what's interesting. So he said that there's a pediatric care facility that's open from 4 to midnight on certain nights. And now no doctor in our current system that I've ever been aware of has decided, oh, I'm serving children. Maybe I should be open when the parents aren't at work, right? Or maybe I should shift my hours. That doesn't happen in our current healthcare system. That happened in this system, though, because someone wanted to differentiate themselves from the next guy. And consumers are paying out of pocket and making a choice as well, as you just mentioned. You have some of that. He also goes on to say about this private practice that's open later. He says, there are more parking spaces. It's easier to pull up. They care about Net Promoter Score. They measure the wait time in their facility. They ask for a review after the fact. And satisfaction levels are what drive their business. So it's interesting that he's seeing that. It sounds like you're doing a lot of this. Maybe not shifting your hours yet, but the customer experience is...
The customer experience is key. The shifting hours can be problematic for many physicians, and a lot of the places, the CVSs of the world that try to do that, you don't have the continuity of care that you want. So one of the reasons why patients will come back to our office is because they're getting the same physician time and time again. Mm. And I think that a lot of larger offices lose track of that sometimes and say, oh, well, so-and-so is open, and they now have diminished the experience for the parents and the patient because they're not seeing the same physician and there isn't that comfort level. I think it's important the bigger a practice gets for physicians to understand how someone else is likely to treat or say or do something. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to do things identical, but when patients are getting inconsistent advice, it will drive them up the wall. So they can go to an after-hour urgent care, get one answer, feel frustrated, go the next night, it's a different person, get another answer. And yes, the hours were more accommodating to them, but they won't necessarily have as good an experience as they want. But having said that, yes, the customer experience and how they view things is very, very important. And there's a balance. I know people don't want to wait, but they also want to be seen the same day. And you can't be everything to everyone. That's where educating the parents and letting them know what the expectation is. It's no different than a freeway sign that says, we have them all over LA. It's 30 minutes to the 405 or whatever. And you have some sense of what the traffic is ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the traffic ahead, it's there, but just having a sense for what that means really, really helps.
Are you doing any Net Promoter Score, any surveying your customers or your patients, parents?
Most of our surveying right now is based on where they're coming from and where the referral source is coming from.
So that's interesting. You're tracking your lead sources, though.
Yes.
Your referral sources. That's smart. What is your culture like? With and in particular, when I say culture, I know what your customer-facing culture is. That enhanced experience. But what is the office dynamic like? Because I've talked to a few of our customers, and it seems like that has been very helpful for them, just simply communicating with their employees, right, and creating a sense of belonging and a sense of the fact that their employees have input and their input will be heard and certain optimizations will be made as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And that communication will drive better profits and better patient care.
And that's really important, and especially in a small office where everyone's sort of stepping on each other's toes. And it's easy to lose sight of that on a day in and day out basis, especially when the office is getting busy and hectic, because in pediatrics you can end up having quite a few people coming in a very short period of time, and that phone can be ringing off the hook at times. So we try to remain a friendly, close-knit group that can communicate well. We do a holiday picture every year that is, some are more activity-based, some are not. We've been doing it for years. I've taken the team hot air ballooning, we've gone go-karting, we did horseback riding, we've went on a boat. This year we did one on a fire truck. I rented a camel one year. I liked the camel.
Yeah, so it seems like you take an interesting approach to life in general where, firstly, it has to be fun, right, if you're going to do it, and you're open to things as long as it's fun.
Yes.
Right, and rewarding. I think
Mm-hmm.
fun and reward and impact go hand in hand. Can you think of one thing that impacted your business more so than others?
Well, I tried to be consistent across all the medias that I was on, and I think it was the consistency in message which was the most important for the office and for me. And saying to yourself, okay, if you're going to be this small, personable type of office, how is that evident when you walk into the office? How is that evident when you click online? How is that evident in anything that you send out or write or put out there for public consumption? How is that evidence in your business card? How is that evidence in just the little things? Like I mentioned, we answer the phone directly. You don't get a machine answering the phone. Trying to be consistent on all of those fronts takes a lot of effort. And once they're in place, it's easy to maintain them. It can be a little difficult to get the culture of an office to change if that's not how they were raised. It took a while to get everyone to say their name when they answer the phone. Hello, this is so and so. And just after a while, though, it starts to feel a little bit more natural, and you feel it with the office. The parents really appreciate the extra effort you go on those fronts, and it's what retains your patients. Even when they switch insurance, they end up coming back oftentimes for cash-paying patients. I have patients who have moved out of the area, had patients who have flown cross-country to see me for quite a while, and I still get phone calls from them on occasion.
So you tell me about, you have this private practice in Ventura, California. Mm-hmm. You also have a whole nother thing that's geared towards parents. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And just so the audience knows, this isn't just a hobby necessarily. You have over 250,000, I'm guessing mostly parents who like you on Facebook and enjoy reading your content and look up to you for advice on taking care of their baby?
So prior to having my brand, which is Dr. Carey's Baby Care, I published a line of medical review books, and I had them out. They were question and answer books. Actually purchased another series, and we signed up authors and had my books in all of the medical bookstores throughout the U.S. And realized that A, it was very cumbersome, and B, I had stepped away from the hands-on part of writing and really teaching, which was the part that I really enjoyed about it. So I sold off the publishing unit to a German medical publishing company and started Dr. Carey's Baby Care. And the heart of it is a book that I wrote that covers pretty much everything that us pediatricians talk about during the first year of life, but very, very picture intensive. So there are just, you name it, there's a picture of it in there. And the book puts me out of business. People see a lot of what I talk about is answered in there, but it really is helpful. And now the goal is to move that to an online form also, with a lot of content and information, and eventually a video series that we plan on rolling out in the next 12 months.
Lastly, I want to talk about what the future has in store for you. You have
Dr. Carey's Baby Care.
Yeah, Dr. Carey's Baby Care. I mean, I mentioned earlier that you have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Very much so. We have 250,000 followers. We should be at 500,000 by the end of this year. We have a website that is going to be devoted towards basically first-year parental education. I'm really excited about, because we've been writing content left and right to make this happen. And I try to bring in the same feel for the content as in the office. It's fun and friendly, but it gets to the point. It doesn't go wandering all over the place. If you've ever tried to read through any of these baby books, you want to pull out your hair. They are endlessly, they sit there on a shelf and they don't do much. They collect dust, and parents can't find anything. One of the things I learned from my medical publishing company, I produced a textbook, a medical textbook on a Palm Pilot. You don't see those anymore.
Yeah.
But it taught me how to organize a book in a way that was easily searchable and very functional. It was actually really neat. I loved that thing. And that's what I want to bring with the content that we're producing online. And then we are going to shoot this year and have done, hopefully by the end of the year, a video series that will really appeal towards pediatricians wanting to help their parents by pointing to it as a source of content to help supplement what the pediatrician is doing with solid information and learning. And I'm very excited about that.
For all the pediatricians out there, what piece of advice would you give them if they're either struggling to, grow their private practice, or keep, struggling with their private practice, or even the pediatricians out there that are afraid to get out of their comfort zone and their shell and do something like you? They don't have to start a parenting publishing company, right? But just do anything with their lives.
Well, I think the first thing that any pediatrician needs to work on is focusing on their office and their practice and maximizing their office. And we did a lot of things to do that. We worked very hard at making sure that physicals are scheduled in consistently. Every single time a parent comes in for a physical, we'll book them up to a year in advance to make sure the next physical is on the books. Every time a child comes in because they're not well, we check to see whether a physical or well child is on the books, because frankly, for pediatricians, the well child check is the bread and butter. That's what's consistent. I have no control over whether Johnny is sick, but I can make sure that we're getting our consistent physicals. It provides better care for the patient. We're less likely to miss something, and it helps the office, so it's a win-win. We try to streamline the process in terms of booking. When a parent comes in, right when they walk in, that's when we book the next physical, not when they're on their way out, because by the time they're on their way out, the parent really doesn't wish to stop and make a decision on that. We try to maximize screening tests that are useful and effective. GoCheck has been, I think it's amazing. I've had a child who I found at 10 months of age who needs glasses who I could never have found beforehand. I think that's really quite amazing. We do depression screenings for adolescents, for postpartum depression also. And you need to be consistent about maximizing what you can in your office. And then on the flip side, you have to go through your office and say, how much am I paying for my phone service, and can I cut back on that? How much am I paying for waste disposal? Nothing seems like a lot, but it all adds up to the bottom line. So I think you have to take a look at your business and see where are you spending money and how can you maximize it. I try to do a careful look at everything that's going on and try to minimize waste and make our office as efficient as possible. I interviewed a pediatrician recently, and my question is, aside from the day in and day out of seeing medicine, what area of medicine or what do you do sparks your interest, or do you find fascinating, or do you want to do? And her answer was she really liked the childhood obesity and the training and things like that. And I think it's important to find your niche of what you like to do. For me, it's writing and writing books and material, but for this other person who was dealing with childhood obesity, which is a big issue and really deserves a lot of attention. And so whatever your passion is, you need to find a way to carve it out and figure out how to progress and think of it as a side hobby.
Yeah. And then maybe someday it's a real business like yours.
It could be.
Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't have to be, right?
It doesn't have to be. It needs to be fulfilling, and that's the primary goal. If you feel that you're getting a lot out of it and you're helping people in the process, that's wonderful. And that's really what comes out of it. After that depends on where you want to take it.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Dr. Carey. Thank you so much. Dr. Carey Chronis, everybody, from Ventura, California.
Thank you very much.
A GoCheck Kids customer. Thank you for screening kids.
Yes.
And it was a pleasure talking to you today.
Oh, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Zach.
Absolutely.